Hey guys, I'm Dimension Jump. Today I'm doing my top 5 classic Zelda enemies that could get a redesign in Breath of the Wild 2. Now, in the original Breath of the Wild, we did see several enemies get some sort of redesign, like the Bokoblins, the Zalvoses, the Lynels, even Dark Beast Ganon at the end of the game got some sort of redesign, but they all kept some of the elements that kept them, that we've seen in other Zelda games. So I thought, if when Breath of the Wild comes around, or the sequel comes around for Breath of the Wild, there could be some old Zelda enemies that have appeared in previous games that could be brought back into the sequel and could get a sort of redesign in some sense, maybe adding a few changes here and there to make them more enjoyable and a lot more cooler. So to start off with, for number 5 are the Poes. Now the Poes have been in Zelda since, I believe, Ocarina of Time, and with each design they've looked more ghost-like and stuff like that. So I thought if they were brought back into Breath of the Wild 2, they could look kind of human-like, because I think there were some. I think the Poes in Twilight Princess look the closest to looking like a human. So I was thinking maybe for Breath of the Wild 2, make them the most human-like in the game, because this could be like, let's say Gandalf, when he's trying to regain health or trying to regain his true power back, he's able to cast some kind of dark magic or something, and he could bring let's say the old knights of Hyrule back to life, but as Poes or something, and then is up to Link to try and find, basically to try and fight people he might have interacted with 100 years ago, but now instead of interacting with them, he has to fight them. And or maybe it could be like a part of a side quest, maybe like try and find a certain amount of Poes, collect their souls, and then just give them to someone who's interested in Poes or something. Maybe one of those kind of things that would be quite cool to do. And I think I would say, and if the Poes are brought back, make them scary, like not like Resident Evil type of scary, but just what the hell is that kind of thing scary. So that'll be something quite cool to see. For number 4 is King Dongo. Now King Dongo has had several changes throughout its appearances in the Zelda games. For instance, in the original Zelda game, it just looked like a dinosaur, really. That's mainly because of the whole limitations and stuff like that. But as time has progressed in terms of consoles and graphics and hardware, King Dongo has had several redesigns, and maybe for Breath of the Wild 2, we could see King Dongo being its most Dodongo-iest. Maybe could have like kind of, let's say, kind of like how the Stone Talus acted in a way in terms of, let's say, we see King Dongo and it has like several iron ores and stuff just embedded on its chest, kind of a bit like how the one in Ocarina of Time has some type of ore stuff on its back. Maybe that could be like how King Dongo designed in Breath of the Wild 2. Maybe could have like have some of its arms just have rare iron ores just embedded on its arms or something, or maybe its tail could just be one giant rock, maybe at the end of it, maybe, and it could do its classic breathing in, ready to do a fireball attack, maybe. And yeah, the possibilities are endless, because King Dongo is such an interesting looking boss, even though it's a giant dinosaur looking Pokemon, not Pokemon, boss fight, and it could change. It could adapt to the environments it's in, and that'll be something quite cool to see. For number 3 is Moldorm. Now Moldorm has throughout the appearances in its Zelda games, is probably the only boss fight, or the only boss to keep its original design and maybe have some tweaks here and there. For instance, in the first game it appeared in, A Link to the Past, it was just basically a giant worm looking thing. And then when it made its appearance in A Link Between Worlds, instead of just being a giant worm, it was a giant worm with grass around it, moss. I'm not 100% sure what that green stuff was around Moldorm, but maybe with Moldorm could be one of the bosses that could be like, one of the giant bosses, kind of like a Hinox or a Staunox or a Stone Telos in the original Zelda game, or no, in Breath of the Wild, I meant to say, where it could adapt to different environments. So maybe you could have maybe you could find some in the Elden area, maybe some in the Highland areas, maybe, and they could have an area covered, part of itself covered in fire, maybe covered in ice, maybe covered in grass that you could use as a shield. And yeah, that'd be something quite cool to see, because Moldorm, it really doesn't do anything. It just goes about like this all over the place. It just moves about. It does nothing. And maybe if it could if it could adapt to the environment around itself, maybe it could use some of those elements to either defend itself or attack Link with. As I said before, it could use its environment as a sort of shield. So if it had an icy type thing around it, it could have an ice shield, and upon impact, if it rushes towards Link, it could freeze Link for a bit. Or if it was had a fiery type shield, maybe Link could be set on fire, maybe. And that'd be something quite cool to see. And then it could defend its tail, in a sense. So and you can't hit the tail until you've taken down the defenses around it. Maybe that was, because Moldorm is just, there's so many more possibilities for enhancing it and making it more interesting, instead of just being this basic looking giant worm looking thing and just pushing you off the edge and making you restart the entire battle again if you're playing A Link to the Past. But at least it was kind of updated in A Link Between Worlds, so yeah. For number 2 is the Phats. Now the Phats have appeared in several Zelda games. I believe they appeared in Zelda 1, Ocarina of Time, and Majora's Mask. And I don't think they've appeared since then. So maybe they could appear in Breath of the Wild 2. And again, like with Moldorm, they could have maybe several ones scattered around Hyrule, and they could have all adapted to their environments. So there could be one that's in the Highland areas, one in Hyrule Field, and one in the Sky Islands or Elden Volcano or whatever. And they could have all adapted to those certain environments and have various attacks, maybe, or maybe have those spike things they have, and they could all have have been adapted to the elements. So if there's one in the Elden area, all the spike things could be on fire, and they can just be like a firing tornado type of thing. And that'd be something quite cool to see, because they're just, the only thing they do is just rush into you. They kind of fly into you. And if they were adapted into all the different environments, that'd be something quite cool to see. And that'll be something quite interesting to fight off against, and seeing how cool the designs will be. Because they could keep the normal designs, maybe just polish them a bit here and there, but keep them the same, but have them adapted to their environments, maybe. And for number 5 are the Dark Nuts. Now, with the Dark Nuts, I feel like there could be some changes here and there. Maybe have combine the armors from the Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, in a sense that you have this intimidating looking monster enemy, but you can see that there's different parts of its armor can be taken off, in the sense that you can see, like, let's say these red straps on its arms maybe, or on its boots or something like that, and each piece you get off makes Darknut faster and more aggressive and hits harder. And that'd be something quite cool to see, because like the Darknuts, I would say, are one of the most intimidating non-boss enemies in the Zelda series, mainly because of how much damage they deal and how you've depending on which game can be intimidating and fearsome to fight up against. For example, in the Cave of Ordeals in Twilight Princess, I think on one of the last floors, you will fight 3 or 4 of them, and one of them is harder on its own, but 4 of them, or 3 to 4 of them, are just a lot harder because you have to figure out how to fight each one, and just how to fight and how to adapt in that situation. Because even though the rooms in the Cave of Ordeals are large, the Darknuts move slowly, so that means all three to 4 Darknuts are just crowded towards each other, and it means it will be difficult to try and hit each one or all of them at the same time. So yeah, and maybe depending on the type of Darknuts there could be, let's say the weakest ones have a sword and shield, while the stronger ones have a battle axe, and then once all the armors are off, they just have a simple sword, and then that's what they use when all of the armor has to be taken off, or something like that. So yeah, that'd be something quite cool to see. So that's been my top 5 classic Zelda enemies that could get redesigns in Breath of the Wild 2. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.